We've all got our own opinions on what our dream Porsche 911 is. Over the last 60 years, there's been a vast amount of variants and model codes to choose from, to the point where narrowing it down to just one car is an agonizing task that more often than not descends into the realms of fantasy. In an ideal world, I'd love to be seen in something with the design and styling of an older 964, because for me, it's one of the best looking 911s ever created. But then I also want the usability and performance of the 911s that I'm used to, such as the 991 and the 992. In short, I want to have my cake and eat it. But as luck would have it, I'm not the only one. Welcome to the Theon Design ITA001. It's been commissioned by a discerning and incredibly jammy car collector based in Milan, and as you'd expect from someone living in the fashion capital of the world, it looks utterly and truly sensational. Based on a 964 Carrera 4 Coupe, it's been entirely reshelled and rebuilt at Theon Design's Oxfordshire HQ. Hidden beneath that achingly cool Schwarz black body shell, there's a totally rebuilt 400 brake horsepower 4-litre air-cooled flat 6, a 993 RS 6-speed manual complete with RS shifter, and entirely bespoke interior with a select few modern creature comforts. So having spent the whole morning learning about this car and all its intricate little details, I really could spend, well, the rest of the shoot just talking about the exterior and the bits that you can see, because there's so many incredible pieces to it. But I do want to drive it, so I'll try and keep it a little bit shorter. I spoke about the body and how it was stripped back to its bare bones, but then it's been replaced with carbon fibre. So you've got carbon fibre body panels all around, apart from on the doors, which still on this model aren't. They are going to be in future. But yeah, carbon fibre, it means the weight is down to 1,152 kilograms, and that's with fluid. So it's incredibly light for something like this. You've also got an aerospace grade wiring loom, which is no doubt a lot better than the one that was fitted to the car when it was brand new. So that'll no doubt be rock solid. It's got a hydraulic nose lift, which means that when you're driving it around town and looking stylish, you don't chafe it on speed bumps. That's very helpful. And then these wheels, they're 18-inch Fuchs style alloy wheels, and they've got this wonderful champagne sort of petal design. And also you can see that champagne color going around the rim as well. And they just look sensational. And actually, you can just about see the brakes through the wheels, and they are off the 993 RS, as is the diff and as is the gearbox. So it's a slightly newer setup for the brakes, the diff and the gearbox than when the car came out and it was new. And then finally, these mirrors, they've got the brushed metal effect on them, and they look sensational, almost like a bullet in flight. And they're actually inspired by the 991 Speedster concept. So in some ways it's the newest design element on the car. But even so, it really fits in with the rest of it just perfectly. The interior too is a work of art, even if this particular car has a more pared down spec than some of Theon's other commissions. See, all of its cars are customizable, but in this case, the client went for subtle tobacco brown leather Recaro seats, complete with black leather and carbon trim, a 6-speaker focal audio system that works from your phone, and sculpted pedals that sit perfectly for optional heel and toe. It feels like classic old school Porsche, yet there's just enough luxuries such as aircon and electric mirrors to keep your attention on what is unquestionably the main event: driving it.
So the gentleman that owns this car hasn't actually taken delivery of it yet. It's finally been finished and he's waiting for it to turn up in Italy. So as you can appreciate, I'm not going to drive it quite as hard as I might usually do with a normal press car. So to give you some important numbers, we're looking at 400 brake horsepower and 315 pounds-foot of torque at 7,000 and 6,250 RPM respectively. And that means that because it weighs so little, the power to weight ratio is 347 brake horsepower per tonne. And that's about the same as a 992 911 GT3. But if there's one thing that you can appreciate, even when you're not really stretching it out, is the sound that this car makes. It's such a primeval sound, and it just goes right through to your core, even when you're short shifting to try and be respectful. Don't get me wrong, a modern 911 GT3 sounds incredible, but they don't sound like this. So some of the modifications that Theon have made to this engine include a drive-by-wire throttle and a dual-mass flywheel to give greater responses. And there's also individual throttle bodies made by British specialists Genv. And that definitely helps out with the drivability. We've also got a high-performance plenum from a 997 GT3, and the ceramic-coated exhaust has a switchable valve in it. So when everything is fully open, it's almost a straight-through pipe, which is why it is so loud. I mean, even at 5,000 RPM, you can still really hear it, as can everyone in this valley. I mentioned the gearbox earlier. It's from a 993 RS, as is the brakes, as is the differential, and it's a really nice gearbox. It's not as sort of mechanical or metallic feeling as I was expecting. It's a bit softer than that, but it is incredibly easy to use, and you get genuine pleasure from changing gear. What I like about this car is they could have taken its original body and styling and just put the bits from a much newer 911 in, but they haven't done that. And if they'd done that, then it wouldn't have the charm that this thing does, and it is absolutely bursting with it. Don't get me wrong, I love modern 911s, the 992 GT3. We did a wonderful video on it on this exact road, but this is just something entirely different. It feels like a completely new experience for me. I'm sitting in what feels like a massive glass house. There's so much light coming in and the pillars are so thin. I can see all the corners of the car. The steering wheel is really pushed into the dashboard. I'm a bit offset with the pedals, but it feels like a proper 1980s Porsche experience. But the crucial thing is that the experience is just heightened and made better by all the changes that Theon have made. It just feels like everything is more polished and refined in this form. This is the automotive equivalent of MSG. Now, lots of performance cars now have very hyperactive steering around the straight ahead point. This thing definitely doesn't. It actually feels almost a little bit loose, like there's not much going on, but that's absolutely fine because the amount of feel that you get once you go just off centre and the tyres start to bite, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres by the way, it means that you know exactly what's going on underneath you. And this road surface, it's not the best, but it's also not the worst, but there are definite bumps, as you can see, and they are being perfectly transmitted into the cabin, and you can feel every last one and respond to them. It's actually got 5-stage adaptive suspension, so you can choose how soft or firm you want it to be, just like in a modern 911, but it doesn't feel too much or like an anachronism. It's pretty much about right for when you want to drive this car, mostly on the roads, which you will.
For some, a £380,000 commission plus the price of the donor model might seem far too much for a 30-year-old car. After all, you can get the mother of all current 911s for that amount of money. But what the ITA001 does that modern equivalents do not is give you an enhanced sensation of an exciting bygone era of automotive excess. For those that drove or lusted after the original, this is a car whose reality lives up to the memories. One untainted by the context of time or the present day, and whose sound, feel and design hits harder than even your fondest memories.